Good morning. Thank you, Adrian and Lila. I'm going to curtail my remarks today because I had my chance last night, and I gave my lecture, and it went on and on and on. And so today is for others, and I am delighted that those others are here. And I just hope we don't lose too many people to the Psychic Expo downstairs. I'm tempted, but no. All right. I want to begin our symposium today, as I did my lecture last night, by thanking our donors who've made the exhibition, the publication, and the symposium possible. And one of those, in fact, more than one of them, are here today. One of the themes of my writing and at my talk last night was the importance of patrons. It was unavoidable in my study of artists in Iowa, the first century, because for much of that first century, there was very little of it. Many of the stories of artists in Iowa are sad because they struggled so to live as an artist. But it can also be enheartening to observe how determined so many people were to at least try to become an artist and to live their lives as artists. Artists will create, no matter what, but if there is support for their work, they can do more, and it is more likely that their work will survive. Last night I told several stories about things that almost found their way to the garbage, but were really just rescued, and now we have them still today. I wanted to emphasize that patronage is not just buying art, although most of the art in this exhibition could have been, and some of it was, I know, bought for astoundingly low prices. Patronage also comes from those who value art, who look at it, and most importantly, patrons who think about it. Patrons are those who are willing to be challenged by art that doesn't necessarily make them comfortable, and who are willing to be changed by it. Art gets nowhere without contemplation from the people who see it and experience it. But artists can't make us think. That has to be generated from the patrons. I think about this a lot, how much of life is about opportunity. In my opinion, it isn't true that a person can create her own opportunities. You can prepare yourself, and you can be ready when opportunity is offered, and you can even solicit opportunity. But opportunity is something that is given to you by others. You can't give it to yourself. Therefore, I advocate giving opportunity to artists. Give them the opportunity to be looked at, assessed, discussed, and examined. The sad thing about studying art in Iowa in the past is that so often opportunity was not there. During the New Deal of the 1930s, the Federal Writers Project wrote guides for each of the then 48 states. The book for Iowa, which was published in 1938, it was called Iowa, A Guide to the Hawkeye State, put art at the back of the book, noting that there was little to say about the state up until the 1930s. And here is their explanation for that. Quote, I didn't write this, they did, in 1938. There was little time for artistic expression in the hard life of the early settlers, except in those products which served a useful as well as an aesthetic purpose. And by that, they used the example of quilt making, quite rightly. They go on. Interest in handicraft was acceptable in Iowa, but anyone who had a talent and love for painting worked alone and as secretly as possible. He found no place in the methodical and hard-driving farm life, and more often than not, was considered to be a bit queer or a lazy good-for-nothing. Well, that may have been true in the past, but I don't think it is any longer, at least not here, not at Iowa State. As many of you know, Iowa State University has the largest public art on campus program in the nation. We don't have the largest collection in our university museums, but in terms of art that is free, accessible, and available to the public, we do. In addition, Iowa State was the first college to employ an artist in residence. That person was Christian Peterson, who was added to the staff for the sole purpose of producing art for the campus in 1934. The University Museums, under the leadership of Lynette Pullman, has built magnificently on that legacy. Our exhibition, Artists in Iowa, the First Century, was inspired partly by a surge in donations and support, not only financially, but in gifts of works of art to the collection. It was also inspired by the first book of Iowa art history, which was called Iowa Artists of the First 100 Years, published in 1939 by Zenobia Ness, a Iowa State faculty member, and Louise Orwig, with a foreword by Grant Wood. Ness and Orwig's book was a compilation of information about all the artists known to have worked in the state. Most of them were still living at the time of the publication. The Ness and Orwig book was an alphabetical listing of artists with information about their careers. It was the raw material of history. But they did not attempt to write a narrative of the art history of Iowa, to try to discern patterns, trends, developments, chronologies. They also made no assessment about significance. Our exhibition and book seeks to begin the art history of Iowa. As I have often said, and I say again, this exhibition and the publication is neither exhaustive nor definitive. It is a beginning. It is a foundation on which I hope others will build, and I think we're going to see some of that today in this symposium. For myself, as I searched, 3 themes or goals about art in Iowa in the first century emerged. 1, the Meskwaki ought to be included in our art history, as they have not been. 2, a big theme was, of course, the love and reverence for the land and the various ways in which that was expressed. And 3, the value of work, especially agricultural labor. I'm delighted that the speakers we have here today will be dealing with these subjects and doing so substantively and with other topics as well. They will also, I am sure, be adding their own ideas and assessments, their own emphasis. I am eager to hear it all. It is important for me to emphasize to each of the speakers today that I do value your stature as artists, scholars, researchers, and patrons. I want to assure you of my respect and regard for your work, that I am and have been from the beginning interested in your contribution, not just to this symposium, but to the subjects which we're embracing and seeking to understand. Thank you very much for being here. I'm so eager to hear what you have to say. And it doesn't all have to be nice. You can be critical. That's fine. I thank all of you for your participation, and I am especially grateful for the friendships I have among our distinguished speakers. But this is not my symposium. It's yours. And it belongs also to our audience. We are all, especially me, going to be smarter and more insightful at the end of the day.